Hello and welcome back to the Knitting Page podcast. If you're new here, my name's Paige and I'm the face behind the Knitting Page. Today I have a regular podcast episode for you. It has been a minute since I have sat down and recorded. I'm not sure if you can hear my voice, but I have been a little bit under the weather. I have just had a birthday that's passed and I had my family visiting. The goal for this year was to follow through and post a video every week, but I wanted to have grace with myself, and so the sickness, honestly, I still might cough today, but I have been hacking up a lung and life has just gotten busy, but I'm trying to do my best. I'm trying to work with the daylight that I have and then sit down and record and catch you up with what I have been working on. So in classic podcaster style, I'm wearing my one and only finished object. This is the West Sands sweater, and this was a test knit for Journey Through Yarn. This sweater is a top-down raglan construction knit at a DK weight on 4mm needles. I used Pure Gint by Sandnes Garn. This was the first time I had ever used Pure Gint. I can speak very highly on it. I have used Double Sunday, but I haven't made a garment out of it. And in terms of like itchiness, I really don't find this is irritable at all for at least my skin type and like my sensitivity to fibers and wool. I'm currently wearing it with a top on underneath because I may heat up, but I do find that I can wear it without a layering piece on underneath and just with a garment. This sweater was really fun to knit. As you can see, the raglan goes down and you begin the color work after you split for sleeves. I really enjoyed this. I just find, I don't know, sometimes this was actually my first like proper raglan sweater construction, but sometimes I find that just managing, when I have done colorwork sweaters, managing the increases and the decreases with colorwork can be a little bit confusing. So this was nice to work on the increases without having to worry about managing colors. There's 4 different colors used in this pattern, so it is a multi-stranded colorwork garment, and so trying to do the yarn management while also increasing would have been doable, but it definitely was a more pleasant knitting experience and not have to increase and just worry about doing the color work once I was in the body and on the sleeves. As you may be able to see, the sleeves have no decreases. They are just giant tubes, and I honestly kind of love the look. For those of you that don't know, and maybe those of you that do, I really like to run. Although with my sickness, I haven't been running a lot for the past week or so. But there was one day it was super cold out and I threw this sweater on and went for a run, and I just felt so cozy in it. And I've been, I don't know, I kind of have this thing where like I like to run in clothes that aren't running clothes sometimes. And I ran in the sweater and it was super cozy and kept me warm on a cold winter day. This sweater kind of reminds me of a banana. Obviously it's yellow and it has like little brown spots on it. So the other day, the first day I wore it to work, I like took a silly selfie holding a banana like a phone, and it just gives me very banana vibes in like the best way possible. My favorite color is yellow, and this is my first yellow garment that I have. I also really love bananas and usually have one once a day, usually at breakfast with peanut butter and toast. But the color work on this is also really beautiful. So as you can see, there is a mix of alternating colors, but also alternating stitches. And so there are some purl bumps in most of the rounds that just give the color work a nice different look to it, rather than just keeping it in plain stockinette. I will say when I started the first stripe, I had to reference the color chart or the color work chart a lot. I didn't find the pattern was super memorizable, like to like look at it and just know what I'm doing. Each round I kind of had to reference, and sometimes even within the round I had to reference. But I found the more stripes that I did, the more I guess confident and that's the word I'm looking for, the more competent I got in knowing the pattern, and by the end of the body I didn't really have to reference it. Another feature that I really love with this sweater, and it's written into the pattern, is doing these contrasting hems. So you knitted top down, so you cast on the contrast color. I chose brown. She does tell you to do certain colors, and it made sense as to why when I was knitting the body and doing the sleeves, and that I chose to do the light brown hem for the body, even though the sleeves and the body were supposed to be the same. And that part of that is just due to yarn management, having enough yarn to complete the recommended number of rows. But I did a different hem for every or a different color for every hem. So I did the dark brown for the collar, and I made that decision because I'm a fair person, I have light colored hair, and I thought that doing the white or the light browny gray might just be a little too much lightness, where the brown up here would be a sharp contrast as to my hair and skin complexion. I only had enough yarn of the white to do hems on the sleeves. I could have done brown as well, but I wanted to make it a little different, and then I decided to do like the light gray brown for the body hem. Overall, I took and wanted to do like a kind of neutral palette and to have it be color work, but not be too in your face and have it be too high contrast. Obviously the brown middle line sticks out, and you can see that there are other colors going on, but it's not too in your face. I've worn this about once or twice a week since I cast it off in the middle of January. I would definitely recommend this pattern. I really love the amount of ease that I have in the sweater. I tend to like my clothes to be a little more baggy swaggy when it comes to knitwear, and this has a really nice amount of positive ease, and it was kind of my reference piece for another project that I will show you that I've casted on since. But this was a really enjoyable process. Well, more or less. I found that the stripes, I had to focus a lot, and then I'd rush through doing the color, and then I'd be like, okay, stripe time, and I'd get through the stripes, and I tried to do them all in one sitting, and then I would get to the next, I'd zip through the color, and then I'd get to the stripe, and so it was a little potato chippy in the sense of doing the body. You chunk it down into 10 rows, and so it was quite manageable, and the body went by a lot quicker than the yoke did, in all honesty. But that is it in terms of finished objects. Alrighty, in terms of whips, I have 5 whips, but I haven't fully been working on all of them all the time. One whip is one from before the new year. And I was like maybe gonna make it my Christmas sweater. I haven't finished it. It is this mohair sweater, as I try to find a way to show it to you. It's obviously, well, it's see-through, so you can kind of see through it. One of the girls at the knit night I go to had made a sweater similar to this, and I was like, I have this random ball of mohair with some sparkles in it. Wouldn't it make such a cute Christmas sweater? It ended up being way more orange than it looked like in its skein form, and so it's kind of more like all like Halloween vibes. And so I knit like this part up in like literally 2 days, because it's knit on 8mm needles, and I'm using the blouse #1 pattern, but then just as like inspiration, but also not really using it for reference, because the stitch counts are just so off because it's an 8mm needle. But I wanted to have like the general shaping of blouse #1 and have it be more so of a boat neck than a like crew neck. Anyways, this is going to take like 1 night of knitting to finish, so maybe I will bring it to knit night this upcoming week and get it off my needles. The other thing that I'm not super pleased with is I just did a regular cast off on the body, and it's very tight. It does go over my head and I can wear it, but I just want it to be a little more flowy, so I might take that back and redo it. But I'm not loving the idea of taking it back, and so that's probably also part of the reason I haven't finished it, is that I should have done a stretchy bind off and I didn't, and so I'm not super excited to wear it. But I do think it would be such like a fun little piece to wear on like a date night or like out with friends and have like a little bralette on underneath. I think it would be cute to wear it to work with a tank top on underneath. I think it would be like a good layering piece. It's so plushy because there's so much air in it because of the large gauge, that I think it would make a good piece to like kind of throw on, throw off. Obviously you'd wear something underneath it because it's see-through. But this is one that hopefully I'll have finished the next time I talk to you. Haven't made a whole lot of progress since, but it's one that I was like, I should talk about it because I want to finish it. So bringing it back to the podcast. Alrighty, the next project that I have casted on that's of some like notoriety is my Billie Pullover. It looks kind of silly because I have like I should be upping my needle size in terms of like the length of my cord. So it looks wider at the neckline than it does here, but I haven't made a whole lot of progress on the Billie. But it is this beautiful cabled jumper that's by Sari Nordlund. And I was enjoying knitting it a lot, but it involves a lot of focus. And I went through a few weeks where I felt like I just had very little capacity and I didn't knit on it a lot, and it just kind of went to the wayside. I cast this on as a knit along with my knit group here in Halifax, and it's been super fun to see everyone's progress. Obviously, my progress is not that notable. A very, very lovely piece. I'm using Gilead by Durarum Natura in like their navy color. Really, really love this yarn. It feels like it's going to, I didn't actually swatch, so, but I feel like it's going to bloom a lot and soften a lot, as most woolly wools do. I would love to kind of bring this back into rotation. I have a long weekend coming up, and I also will be going on March break for 2 weeks. And so this could be an opportunity to work on this then, when I don't have as many life commitments outside of, like, I won't be working during that time, or at least like having my regular teaching job. Still be doing some lesson planning for an upcoming climate change unit in science and some math units. But having more free time that I can think I have the capacity to work on something that just involves a bit more thinking. I'm still on the raglan. It is a raglan. It has like this little cable here for the raglan, and I'm just finding that the increases in the pattern, it was just a lot going on. I was at a point where like every row kind of had a different instruction, and I put it down and haven't picked it back up since. So the Billie has been started. It was one of my winter plans. We'll see if we can finish it by the end of March. Might be like a nice soft goal and have it be like a spring sweater. But for right now, it's kind of going on ice just because I haven't had the brain power, and I haven't really been knitting a whole lot. I've been more social with some friends. I've gotten into rock climbing, which has been really fun. I live super close to a gym here, and then running and hosting people. It's just been really busy, and I just find that like knitting hasn't fallen easily into that, and especially knitting an all over textured pattern hasn't lended itself nicely to my lifestyle the past month or so. But I have casted on a few other projects. One of them, I'm going to save like the most exciting one till the end. But this one here is the beginning of a hat, and I have another ball of this yarn, but it is in a bin that I'm like waiting for the weekend to go and get it. So I knit up the one little ball that I had from winding it up, and it's been chilling at this stage. But I'm gonna knit the Sacred Sheep Heart by Caitlyn Hunter. And this hat is this really beautiful colorwork hat, and it has a lot of options to customize the hat within the pattern. But I am planning to do a really thick, like double folded, or I guess triple folded brim. And I'm also planning to make the short, like head length of the hat. So I want it to be like short with a thick brim. I think will look super cute. This yarn was gifted to me by a friend when I lived in Kingston. It is a mohair and wool blend that's worsted weight, and it's from a farm in Ontario. I can't remember the name of the farm, but I want to say it's in like Elora, Ontario. I'll see if I can find a link and post it below. But it's Canadian wool and Canadian mohair, I believe, and it's like a 60-40 blend of wool to mohair. And so it has like this lovely halo on it. It also is like a good thickness. It's pink, which we love pink. And the Sacred Sheep Heart, it's a colorwork hat. So you like the ribbed brim, and then you change for color work. I, last year, 2 years ago, was part of a subscription where I was buying yarn, local Canadian yarn from the Long Way Homestead. And within that, you get a whole bunch of different types of yarn from different breeds of sheep. Some of them are naturally white, some of them are naturally brown, some of them are naturally black. And so my plan for this hat is to use up some of the yarn from the Long Way Homestead and do a colorwork hat in either like a dark brown and or black with a white. So having a dark color and then one of the white colors. And so that this hat would be like made out of 100% Canadian wool, having different fiber compositions. I think it would be like a nice way to nerd out to those that like fibers, but then also just look really cute with the pink as a nice kind of bold piece for some dopamine dressing in the winter, but then using up some of those neutral skeins, single skeins of yarns that I have for the contrasting dark and white in the hat. I'll make sure to include a photo because it is just such a beautiful hat. One of my friends at Knit Night has made this hat, and every time she wears it, I'm drooling. My mouth is on the floor, or my jaw's on the floor, not my mouth. My jaw's on the floor because it's just a very beautiful hat, and so I wanted to cast it on. I've also just been I've been sick the past week and a half, but usually I am running 1 to 2 times a day outside. And so having lots of accessories has been really lovely. Walking to school, being able to go on recess duty or outdoor lunch duty, and having these nice woolly pieces that I've made has just been really nice. I also do just like kind of having a stock of like hats so that if a friend is like, I love that hat, I can just give it to them, but I've kind of worn down my stock that I've made. And I really only have 2 hats that I have made that I've worn. And so I wanted to add to my collection, which also inspired another cast on. Speaking of the Long Way Homestead, this is another yarn by them. This is their Jacob breed. It's a worsted weight yarn. And I just have, oh my gosh, English is so hard. I have just cast it on, I'm not following a pattern. I've cast it on 84 stitches and I'm just following a 2x2 rib. I find with my ribbed hats, maybe you have a tip for this, but they always stretch out over time and it drives me bananas. And so my idea with only casting on 84 stitches is that it will stretch with time, and it may be a little cozy at the start, but over time it will relax and widen with my head the more wear that I get. I have 100 grams or like 113 grams of this yarn, and my plan is to, again, I really love just like the warmth and just the look of having a really thick brim. And so my plan is to do a triple folded brim and basically just knit a giant 2x2 tube and then do some decreases at the top. And so I've just been finding it to be like my little travel project that I can throw in my backpack and just easily work on. And I've been kind of missing that. And some of the opportunities I have to knit are in these like lull moments when you're like waiting for an appointment or like at recess and I just want something to take my mind off and like kind of transition. Having a little project is nice, where some of the last whip that I'll show you is way too big right now to be lugging around. And so I just want something small, and I want more hats to wear. I also really want to knit a tighter balaclava because I just want that snuggy warmth on my head. And so part of me is like, do I turn this into a balaclava? But I really like the idea of having like a nice, neutral, thick 2x2 ribbed hat. My other hats are neon pink and neon green. And so having something a little more subdued, I think is not the end of the world. It would also kind of look cute with like the sweater I have on right now. Anyways, cast it on this project just as a little thing to work on and have something that doesn't involve a lot of thinking, because I've not been wanting to think when it comes to knitting, which is why you'll see so much progress on the last sweater, or the last whip, which is the Lakes V-neck pullover by Ozetta. So let me just show you this yarn. I really hope the heathering of that came through, but it is like this brown heather with flecks of like teal and orange and red and purple and just so many undertones in it that it's just so beautiful. And so the reason I cast on this sweater is that I really want to make my dad a sweater. My dad is a very knit-worthy man. He would wear this sweater. He has worn a whole bunch of other sweaters. He is currently wearing this sweater from like the 80s that has a moth hole in it that he puts on every day after he goes skiing. And so I really want to knit him a sweater so that he doesn't have to wear this moth hole sweater in it, and you know, he can wear it out and say that his daughter made it and whatever. He doesn't have to say that his daughter made it, but I just know that if I knit him a sweater, he would wear it all the time. So I bought this yarn for my dad, and I was like knitting it up, and I was just falling in love with this color. And I really, really want a brown sweater. I really want to make the Beatrix cardigan in a dark brown this winter. In all honesty, I think it's going to move to a fall project because I just don't really have the time to do that. But I still really want something brown and to go through with that color story from my 2025 winter knitting plans. And so this brown sweater is kind of falling in there. I also just love a saddle shoulder. I find that the yoke of a saddle shoulder knits up so quickly because you do the saddle, you do the other saddle, you pick up, you do the back, you do the front, you do the front, you join in the round, and then you're already knitting in the round. It's just like these little piecey bits, and then you're in the round in mindless stockinette heaven for me right now because I haven't wanted to think about my knitting. It also, I bought the Ozetta Lakes pullover, and then my dad, the sweater with the holes in it, he does have other sweaters, but he just really loves the sweater. And so it's gray, it's a V-neck. And my dad was like, I kind of want it to be a V-neck. And I was like, well, thankfully, same designer also has the same sweater in a V-neck version. So I got the V-neck version, I cast this on. But as I was knitting it, I texted my dad and I was like, so how would you feel about me keeping the brown sweater and knitting you a sweater in either gray or navy? Because I have a sweater's quantity of yarn at a worsted weight in gray and in navy. And he was like, yes, gray. Gray is actually better because his original sweater is gray. It's just like I'm knitting a replacement, but instead of it being store-bought, it's by me. And so let me just grab the yarn. The gray that I have is yarn that's from Topsy Farms, which is a yarn producer out of Ontario. And my dad is a big cyclist. He always grew up commuting to and from work. He mountain bikes. He's just like both my parents are very outdoorsy and active. And the kind of nice story from this is like I was living in Kingston. I went over on my bike and I biked to the farm, went to their farm store, bought the yarn, put it in my backpack and biked home. And so it has a kind of nice story in the sense of my dad is a huge cyclist. I literally cycled to get this yarn and then I'll also go and make this yarn. The Topsy Farms also uses all of their wool from like a 40-kilometer radius of their farm. They use some of their own sheep and they also use sheep from other farms close by, and then it's spun on the mainland of Ontario, not on the island. And so my parents are from Ontario. I went to Queens, which is very close to where Amherst Island is, and it just has a nice story. And so my dad getting a sweater in this yarn, because I bought a sweater's quantity, not knowing, but just knowing I really love gray. But I already have 2 other gray sweaters. I don't have a brown sweater. And so my dad's moth hole sweater is gray, so this would be a nice replacement. I biked to go get it. My dad has kind of inspired my like cycling journey and like love. And it's from local Canadian yarn, which supporting the Canadian economy is always so important. And so my plan is to finish this and keep it for myself and then knit my dad a sweater in this gray. So I'm going back to visit my parents for March break. If I don't wind up finishing the gray sweater in time, because this sweater is honestly, it's so quick to knit. It's just mindless. You don't have to think. It's piecey. The only thing that sucks is that you have to weave in so many ends because there's a lot of breaking your yarn when you're doing a saddle shoulder construction. Like that is the only flaw to it. But if I don't wind up finishing this gray sweater, I might wind up wearing this and then leaving it with my parents while I knit this gray sweater, and then my dad and I will do a swap. My dad and I are not the same size, but he's not like a overtly large man. And anyways, I got him to try on all my sweaters and pick the sweater with positive ease, and him and I are going to be knitting the same, or him and I'm knitting, he is not knitting, but I will be knitting the same size sweater for both my dad and myself. And so if I knit this to my measurements and my dad wants to alter it a bit or like make it a little longer, make it a little shorter, I'll also be able to make that edit while I'm working on his sweater. So kind of works out in that I'll be the guinea pig keep the brown sweater and then make my dad the gray sweater and be able to lengthen the body or the sleeves. The other alteration I'm gonna make for my dad is I really love this super plush v-neck. I'm not sure my dad would like it as much. And so I'm not going to do, it's double folded. I'm going to pick up stitches and knit the collar, but then instead of folding it over, I'm gonna do a tubular cast off for the v-neck so that it is just one layer thick. I think it'll make it a little easier because he likes to layer his sweaters over other like quarter zips and stuff from races. I also am a little worried that I might be playing yarn chicken with the gray sweater. I'm curious to see how many balls this uses up. Right now, this is how much I have left of the third ball for this sweater, and I've used a bit of another ball just based on yarn management for the collar. So we'll see how that winds up working out. But yeah, I think it will work out. I may also go up a half needle size. I'm knitting the body on 5mm needles. I may do it on 5.5, just and knit a size down so that I don't have to use as much yarn, and also just have it be a little thinner for him. Might also be the play, but regardless, I am knitting the Ozetta Lakes v-neck, and I really, really love it. I also have the Ozetta Lakes regular pattern. I got fluff in my eye. I also have the Ozetta Lakes regular pattern, and I do plan to make that sweater at some point. I don't know. I think this is going to be like such a go-to. The other day I had like a full-on brown monochrome outfit, and I was like, I wish this sweater was done so that I could wear it. But c'est la vie, it wasn't. So when it comes to acquisitions, I don't have any acquisitions today, but I do have an acquisition that is coming in the mail. And I know I said I didn't want to increase or buy any yarn, and I really want to work from stash. And I'm very proud to say that that is still the case. But what I do have coming in the mail is a studio light. And it's all thanks to the sponsor of today's video, which is Skillshare. And no, Skillshare didn't purchase a studio light for me, but Skillshare has allowed me to take classes to kind of elevate my filming game. Skillshare is a platform that has thousands of classes. It's built by creatives for creatives so that you can level up whatever skill, task, idea you want to work on, from writing to filmmaking to graphic design to productivity, using Notion and learning on Skillshare to help me organize my work, my running, my knitting has been game changer. But today the class that I am talking about is how to film yourself a solo filmmaking masterclass. This class is by Addie Singh, and it is helping me level up my filming process. I live alone, I don't have a partner, and I kind of feel embarrassed to ask my friends to come and film me, and I want to elevate my filming game. I want to elevate the types of videos I'm making. Right now my capacity is fairly low, and so it's sticking to kind of your traditional filming or traditional knitting content, but I would really love to do some more cinematic pieces of like a day in the life of the knitting page and get some cool shots. But part of the reason I haven't done that is that I don't really know where to begin, and Skillshare has been really great at offering not just this class, but hundreds of other classes on filming yourself, on how to film with an iPhone, on how to set up your lighting so that it looks good. And one thing that was talked about in this video was using studio lights. And so I went on Amazon, I ordered a basic studio light. It's supposed to be coming in the mail this weekend, and hopefully that is going to help me film and stay more consistent, because part of the reason I have been struggling is that I'm running out of daylight. The winter has short days, and during the weekday, I'm at work during most of the daylight. And on the weekend, I'm doing things with friends. I'm going to concerts. I'm sitting down and lesson planning and editing, like my tests and marking and doing all these things. And that oftentimes some of my time to film is in the evenings, but then I wind up not filming because the lighting sucks. And so I honestly can't speak highly enough of their platform. I tend to knit while I consume, while I learn, and that it's helping me in this adventure as I become a YouTuber. The first 500 people to click on my link in the description box will get a 1-month free subscription to Skillshare. So please let me know if you wind up using Skillshare and what class you wind up taking. I will continue to share as I tend to level up my productivity, my filming, and what other side pursuits I want to achieve. So I am very excited to receive this studio light and to see how it's going to impact and how I can apply what I've learned to lighten up, get it, my filming process. But yeah, that's all I have for today. I'm really excited to get that and kind of see how things end up shaping. I want to sit down and record my everything I made in 2024 video, but I wasn't sure how long that was going to take. And right now I am relying on natural light, and I have my camera set up in a way that I used based off watching this video or watching this class, How to Film Yourself, a Solo Filmmaking Masterclass. And I'm trying to apply what I learned to this channel so that I can make some aesthetically pleasing videos. And until next time, I wish you the most happiest knitting or crafting, and that you are enjoying this winter if you are in the Northern Hemisphere. Anyways, goodbye!